Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 p.m. on the East Coast, 6:30 p.m. on the West Coast. It's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing on this lovely Monday evening?
I am doing just great. How are you?
I am doing well, my friend.
That's
I'm trucking along. Got a lot of irons in the fire right now. Staying busy. Kicking ass and taking names. Right? I came here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
it's a great movie, great quote, arguably the best quote in that entire movie.
Oh, that fight sequence between Rowdy Piper and Keith David. Oh, one of my
Yeah,
favorite fist fights ever.
all of all time. It still hasn't there hasn't been a really good rival to that scene. So
No, yeah, it feels so real because like they're so worn out by the end of it, right? And then you just sit there, they're like, why are they fighting? There's no reason for them to be. Just put on the glasses. Just put
exactly
on the
right.
glasses.
Keith David's character did not want to put the damn glasses on. So,
Yeah. For anybody who isn't aware of this, this is John Carpenter's They Live,
what
and it is a phenomenal movie. And if you watch it, so many memes and jokes will just instantly become familiar to you. You will understand so much of American popular culture just by watching that one movie.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much like all of John Carpenter's movies, but out of this one is special. But the only drawback I could say about it is it takes a while to really kind of build up to me. I mean, like you kind of you could the potential for boredom is there at the very beginning. For the first feels like a half hour to 40
Yeah.
minutes. But then it takes you on the roller coaster and it never stops. It's just great. So
Yeah, I mean, like the entire intro with him trying to find work, going to the
yes,
unemployment office. I'm like, what am I watching right now, and why are you putting the
yeah,
credits over top of this?
exactly. Yeah, it just takes so long, but yeah, it's all worth it. Especially and then
Yeah, I mean, when he walks into the church for the first time and he
yeah,
sees those people and he puts on the glasses, and then it just doesn't stop after that. And then
yeah,
like he gets to the alien portal, and it's just like it's total insanity.
yes,
And it's a great movie. Seriously, They Live, a really great one of John Carpenter's like best.
yeah, yeah. It's up. Yeah, it's right up there. We can get into more movies because we can actually recap on a couple of things as well.
Okay, all right,
I'll get started. I'll do my share screen here, and I'll pick up kind of where we left off last week.
okay,
So, we're here in our Act Three, and you
mm-hmm.
can see here a really loose sketch of uh, of our character Sally. And there's a three-quarters view here. I'm going to do that tonight, but this is
Okay.
a sketch of it. Sally was wrong, yeah. So I'm not going to scroll around on this particular sequence because I don't know whether we want to show what's happening here really all too much, but
No, this is the very end, so we should
yeah, yeah, we don't want to, yeah.
be
But well,
cautious. Yeah,
yes, but we have our mayor. Boy, I really ran through this.
you really just like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I know that that mayor is a pear shaped, but geez,
Yeah.
James.
But yeah, so I'll work on Sally based on that. I'm going to do a three-quarters pose of Sally in that position
Mm-hmm.
tonight. So with that out of the way, now we can get into the meat of our talk tonight, which was we were talking about great movies, and now you have got back. You have fresh off the presses. You went and saw Spider-Man, um, whatever, what Far From
Yeah,
Home. What is it?
no, No Way Home. Far From Home was the
Yeah,
second one, I believe.
title it was, yeah. So for fun for anybody, for our ones of tens of viewers, it's almost running joke. It's not there yet. I think after the third time it will be a running joke. But I tried to force. It's a weird thing when I try to force Eric to enjoy Spider-Man stuff anyway, and it worked one time with the Spider-Man game on the PS4. I think Eric, you can go to that. I think you were pleasantly surprised with that one. But now here we are, fast forward a couple years later, and now we have this No Way Home, Far From Home, whatever it is. And a couple weeks ago we talked about it, and I enjoyed the movie. And now you were right. You were very much not into the movie, and now you've seen the movie.
I
Now
have.
where are we, Eric?
So first, thank you for paying for my ticket. I do appreciate that.
Very late,
Um,
whatever you want to call it.
in all fairness, I would not have seen it had you not paid for my ticket. I mean, the short answer is my opinion of the movie hasn't changed
Mhm.
at all. It is exactly what I expected. If anything, I think the thing that changed is the plot line was absolutely nonsensical
Mhm. Mhm.
for my
Yeah.
tastes. It didn't. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like the inciting incident that caused Peter to go to Doctor Strange was the fact that his friends, who chose to associate with him of their own free will, didn't get into MIT as a result of knowing Peter Parker, right? And
Yeah,
because
so
his
yeah,
their friends didn't get into MIT, he decides to erase himself from existence. Like, histrionics, thy name be Peter Parker. It was just like,
yeah,
wow. And then the way they just how cavalierly Strange does everything that he does in that movie. I mean, he just comes across as either incompetent or just over it all. Just like, I don't care about anything anymore.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Um, it was kind of. I mean, again, like I didn't try to. I tried not. I mean, at this point, I've kind of given up trying to read too much into any Marvel movie. But yes, you do really have to suspend some. I agree with you. You have to really suspend your belief in these characters with Doctor Strange being so reckless with a teenager asking him to help the entire world forget that he exists because of of trying to get into a school and
Yeah.
uh,
and
yeah.
and the fact that he, like, Peter Parker keeps changing the parameters of the spell, and then Doctor Strange keeps indulging him in this, like, at any point he could have said no, right? And then,
Yeah,
like, or he's like, you're being an ass, and just stop it.
yeah. I
But
mean, kind of sort of tried to a little bit, but yeah, it wasn't really. Yeah,
I
there's
mean, like,
no.
yeah, and like the whole I mean, I'll be honest, for me, the whole Marvel movie thing started getting really off the rails with Doctor Strange when they brought magic into it, and it just basically you could do anything now, and there were no more limitations on what these characters could do. It, to me, it was a total jump the shark moment, right?
Oh, so you're saying like years ago when they introduced Doctor Strange, that first movie, that's where, yeah. But they have
Yeah.
no choice because I mean, if you want to stay true to the Marvel universe, you have to have Doctor Strange involved because for whatever reason he's always a linchpin in these giant these big giant macro stories that Marvel does, and he's always involved somehow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sadly, it's all, and then the same thing. You have to go once you're in the cosmos, and you're doing space stuff, space opera stuff. You're already kind of delving into, I don't know, for lack of better terms, space magic with Thanos, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, so
I
it
mean,
was,
it's sort of inevitable.
yeah.
You've got these infinitely powerful characters who you have to raise the stakes to challenge them, and then, once those stakes have been raised, now you have to raise them again to keep them interesting, and it just sort of becomes, it's this ratchet effect, right?
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and there's no way out of it. I mean, if these Marvel movies continue on ad infinitum, they will get as ridiculous and convoluted as their comic book counterparts have gotten over the years as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my thoughts is that if I hadn't been aware of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina and um, uh, um, Jamie Foxx and uh, the other two guys, the guy from Wings and the guy that played the lizard. Um, why am I forgetting his name? He's one of these three named people. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
like, if I didn't have that knowledge, all of those reveals wouldn't have made it wouldn't have meant anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the arrivals, all of their entrances, all of the characters, hero or villain, the entrances were intentionally done to please an audience who knew who these characters were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I watched it, I was listening to the audience,
Yeah.
and no one reacted to any of the set piece action moments. There was no gasps or cheers or sighs of relief when the heroes survived. Everybody was quiet for those.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was because they were in awe. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I think it was just like, okay, now we're going to watch another Marvel set piece.
Yeah.
But, and then there's, of course, the trademark quips, the Marvel quips that everybody knows and loves, and those got the appropriate amount of chuckles.
Wait, which clips are you referring to?
Well, like there's the breaking of the fourth wall stuff. There's the references to the Spider-Man pointing meme. There's just
Wait, pause for a second. Wait, did that happen in the movie? I didn't even catch that.
Twice, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I held up 3 fingers, but yeah, twice. Once in the lab where Nate goes, Peter, and they all look up. It's like, oh, did they mean you or you or you? And they
start... and they did. That was a meme part.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it. And I was aware of the meme, but I did not catch that.
And then at the end, they did it again where they're all standing around like, I love you guys, I love you, and they're pointing at each other. But then everybody and Joss Whedon really took it to the next level. But even in the beginning of Iron Man, Iron Man is quippier and wittier than anybody you've ever known, right?
Yeah, he's and
everybody is quippy and self-referential, and I don't remember any of them all right now, quite frankly. I'd have to look them up, but it's and everybody gives the prerequisite amount of laughter to those little quips because you're almost obligated to. People have been trained to laugh at those quips at this point, I feel like. But the moments that got the biggest reaction from the audience, without fail, is every time they brought back a previous character from one of the previous movies. Those were the big moments that everybody was like, ooh, oh my God, it's Tobey Maguire. Oh my God, it's Willem Dafoe, right? And to me, at least, that proves my point that it was more about pleasing the fans of the movie than it was trying to tell a coherent story.
Yeah, and that was your biggest issue.
That was my biggest issue with it. Yeah.
So when my wife and I, when we saw it in the theater, we didn't have none of that happened for us. Everybody was just simply watching it. I don't remember the audience being loud about anything. They were pretty much watching it. Nothing really stood out to me. It was everybody just watching the movie. And I mean, nobody was bored or falling asleep or anything. I mean, it was just watching. But again, my biggest takeaway for that movie that I enjoyed was the performances of Alfred Molina and Green Goblin.
Willem Dafoe.
Oh, I thought they both did terrific. I thought I'm being very nitpicky here. I think Doc Ock was a little bit more kind of cartoony than I kind of was expecting him to be, but I still enjoyed Alfred Molina's performance. And to me, that pretty much carried the movie for me. But yeah, I didn't have any of I didn't feel like I said, I didn't pick up on the meme stuff. I guess I wasn't really paying attention. I didn't pick up on the meme stuff, but that's really funny that they did it twice. I get what you're saying. But after our conversation, I started thinking about this more. And I think it's worth kind of talking about this, bringing this up. But we should compare the Spider-Man into the multiverse, or I can't remember. Is it the multiverse or Spider-Verse? I can't remember the title.
Into the Spider-Verse, yeah.
Spider-Verse, okay. There was that version, which again had the same kind of idea of multiple realities and all this kind of stuff. And again, they introduced, I don't know who, for debate's purposes, I don't know who Gwen Spider-Girl was. I didn't know who Black Noir Spider-Man was, but they're all characters that exist too. So you can still get the fan service, but for me, I was experiencing that Spider-Man brand new as a non-fan, even though I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. They were all the manga robot Spider-Girl in the suit. I had no context, but I still enjoyed the movie. So for me, that's the same thing for people who have not seen the Maguire and Garfield movies. At least from what I know, because I was thinking about what you're saying, like, and I think people could enjoy it for the same reason. Like I enjoyed Spider Verse, and I had no idea who I didn't even know who Miles really was. I read him once, but I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. So I mean, like, what did you think? You liked Spider Verse, right? I mean,
I really liked Into the Spider Verse, and I was going in there uh, with the intention of hating it.
uh-huh. Yeah,
But I had
yeah.
heard so many good things about it, and the art style from the trailer looked really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, okay, I'll give it a go, and I ended up really, really, really digging it. I mean, there's a couple of things. I think I tend to find Miles Morales a little bit more fun than Peter Parker. I think he's a more fun character in general.
Yeah.
Now that being said, like old man Peter Parker, played by Jake Johnson in Into the Spider Verse, was great. I mean, that was like classic. He was so good in that role. But um, you know, I knew about Spider Noir, and I knew about Gwen, Spider Gwen, and
Mm-hmm.
Spider Ham, and the only one I didn't know was the anime one, right?
Yeah, I knew. Yeah, that's right. I did know Spider Ham. I remember Spider Ham. That one I did know, but that was kind of fun for a fan set. But yes,
Yeah.
um,
Um.
but yeah, but see, here we are. Like, so we have a like that. I guess my question is, so something resonated with you with Spider Verse. I mean, just for me listening to what you're saying, but then to me, it's really um, Far From whatever, Can't Go Home, whatever the new Spider-Man
Yeah.
is, it's pretty much the same baseline multiverse stuff, which is not done as well. I don't think the story is nearly as strong
Yeah.
as which is like DNA or the skeletal system to get them to where they need to go. Like, it didn't feel like the concept of Doctor Strange just deciding to just do something wacky was a little bit more far fetched to me versus Kingpin finding tech or whatever, however he did, investing in it and doing it. Like that felt more comic booky, realistic, if that's even a term, um, than the Holland one. That's one thing I could think of that makes it a better movie as far as the story.
I mean, I think you're right. Into the Spider Verse didn't have the opportunity to trade on all of this backlog of characters and movies that came before it. It had to exist on its own, and so it really, the creators really spent a lot of time on the story and actually building out these characters, and giving them a past, and well, not really even giving them much of a past. Like they don't get much more detail than they do in No Way Home, but the overall story and the roles that these characters play, I thought was far more interesting. I thought the inciting incident was more interesting. I thought how the team gets together and how they function together was more interesting. In general, I just thought the movie was better, and I think that one of the reasons why it was better is because they couldn't rely on that star power. Um,
So you feel like because yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. So you're saying that the issue you have is about the actual celebrities that were used in the recent version in this Holland version, huh?
I think that if you had replaced all those actors with a bunch of nobodies,
Mm-hmm.
then people would be like, "This movie doesn't make any sense."
It falls flat.
Yeah, I think the only thing that holds that movie up is the fact that they were able, because it's Marvel and they have literally infinite amounts of money, they were able to bring back all of this star power from the previous movies,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and then they just sort of threw darts at a wall to make a semi-coherent storyline to justify why all of these people were in the universe, and then didn't really go beyond that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that. Uh,
So I guess but you do raise a good point. I think if um, No Way Home had a story that was as interesting and as fun as Into the Spider Verse, I wouldn't have had a problem with them getting all of those characters back, right?
mhm.
It wasn't like I was like, oh, Willem Dafoe. I love Willem Dafoe. I love Alfred Molina.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
Um, it you know it's so it's not like, oh, how dare they bring these characters into it. It was more
No,
like
Yeah.
yeah, okay, this is fine, but your movie doesn't make any sense. It just
Yes.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Because yeah, again, I was thinking about like so in Spider Verse they bring multiple Spider Men and women and woman
Spider-Man, yeah.
and woman into this movie. And again, for me, I don't have any context for any of them, but I enjoyed it a lot. And I did enjoy this one because of what you said the movie's guilty of, which was fan service. Because I knew who Tobey Maguire was, and I know who Andrew Garfield was. But I think I think you and I both agree the writing was not as good for this one, but it does rely on star power because I bet if you wrote the script, interesting enough, you could have replaced the Spider-Man in the Holland version with anybody, and if it was written right, we would have found the same interest in like who was this Spider-Man. Like I mean, if you want to do something even more just flat surface type of stuff. What if you did bring Dark Noir Spider-Man into the Holland version of the movie? Then you don't have to rely on star power at all. You go, this is Dark Noir. I think that's where yeah, they were relying on star power to carry it, and makes it does kind of. I can see what you're saying. It could make it a weaker movie in that way. It makes it weak. And then again, the general premise of it was just yeah, it was a little bit silly for Doctor
Yeah,
Strange.
well, and the thing, yeah, I mean, like Doctor Strange, like when they go into the mirror dimension, and Peter goes like, "What is this?" and Doctor Strange it goes, "It's the mirror direction, and here I'm in control." And then
Yeah.
30 seconds later, Peter goes, "Wait, this is just math," and then traps
See,
uh,
yeah.
Doctor Strange in the universe that he literally just said he was in control of.
Yeah. So, but for me, again, being a Spider-Man fan, I thought that was very Spider-Man. Like, oh, he saw it with math, and he got that more powerful guy,
Yeah.
and then, but even Doctor Strange did a wink. I felt like, I interpreted it that he was like doing a wink and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, Peter. I'll see you in a bit, kind of thing. I
To,
enjoyed that moment a lot, actually. For
yeah.
me,
To
yeah,
me, it felt like we have to get this character who is way more powerful than Peter Parker out of this movie for two
yeah,
hours.
yeah,
Otherwise, he will just come in and solve all of these problems.
yeah, yeah.
Um, because he had it under control. He had already captured Doc Ock and Sandman, or not Sandman, Doc Ock and Lizard, and it was well on his way to capturing what was the other? Anyway, Doctor Strange was already solving the problem by the time Peter showed up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
yet, for some reason, even though he clearly had this under control, he gives Peter this random thing that allows him to teleport villains into magical prisons. Again, way too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it just everything that Doctor Strange did in that movie was dumb. It was just dumb. Um,
Yeah, he the MCU version of Doctor Strange is kind of more dumb
mhm.
than the comic book version of Doctor Strange. I haven't read him in years, so I don't know what he's like now. But
No, I mean Doctor Strange. I mean, I think they killed him off actually.
uh,
I think he's dead right now. I mean, it's
yeah,
a comic book, so what does that mean?
I mean Wolverine's already back, I'm assuming by now.
Yeah,
Died a while back, so yeah, yeah. With all that being said, it felt like long-term effects for Marvel movies. Um, it feels like they're trying to linchpin this particular movie as a catalyst for what they're going to do going forward, and it's kind of a weak linchpin compared to the Stones from their first run with Iron Man
yeah,
and stuff like that. That's a little. I mean, as a fan, if I'm I'm not even that much of a fan anymore, but as a fan, like more of a moderate to casual fan, that is a little bit concerning because it's always going to be like the next 5-6 years of Marvel movies are going to be linchpin to um, this weird kind of conceit of Doctor Strange doing a dumb decision, and now we have to watch 5 years of Marvel characters dealing with it.
yeah. And I'm, yeah, and yeah, and then the post credit sequence talking about like setting up the next phase.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they going to bring in the Tom Hardy Venom into the main continuity? It seemed like that was what they were implying, even though he got teleported back to his dimension.
I think the implication is, and this is how I was confused by it too. But I think the implication is now is there's a piece of Venom left in Tom Holland's well, the MCU, and that'll take over whatever Eddie Brock's version is
I
in
see.
Tom Holland's world. I
That
think
makes
that's what.
sense.
So they're gonna have another Venom. I guess they're gonna have another Venom, not Tom Hardy version, just some other random dude that's gonna play Eddie Brock
Yeah.
and that's my gut. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Venom movies. I can't comment on them at all. I have no idea. It didn't. I wasn't. I mean, I again as a Spider-Man fan, I enjoyed Venom's a great villain. I think he's funny, hilarious in a very dark way. But I didn't like the way they handled him in the cinematic universe for Venom. So I haven't seen any of the movies. Although I love Tom Hardy, I think he's a great actor.
I mean, I saw the first one,
Okay.
and my one sentence review was, if this movie had come out in 1999,
Oh,
17-year-old Eric would have thought it was so cool. It just feels like a movie that's out of time, out of place. Like it I don't know. It didn't feel contemporary or relevant in any capacity.
Okay.
And again, I really like Tom Hardy. I think he's a phenomenal actor.
Mm-hmm.
But he picks these odd roles sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I loved him in I love him as Mad Max. I think he's
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
looking forward to. Hopefully, they'll make a few more of those.
Well, they're doing the Furiosa prequel, but for some reason, George Miller hired um, Anya Taylor Green to play young Furiosa, and it's just like I really don't see her. I mean, Charlize Theron is a badass. Like,
Why do you?
you
Why I
know,
don't know about a prequel? Just do her next leg of her life, kind of a thing. Like,
yeah,
why?
I don't know. But in
Yeah.
any case, so yeah, they're doing a Furiosa prequel. Anya Taylor Joy, right? That's her name.
I don't know who that is. What is she in?
She was in The Witch and Last Night in Soho, are probably two things that you've seen her in.
Oh,
She was the blonde in Last Night in Soho.
oh, so Queen's Gambit
Yeah,
actress.
Queen's Gambit actor. Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
her.
Well, she's a good actress, so there's that. Um, I mean, I liked her and everything she's done. It's funny how I believe she was the first time I ever saw her, and I mean, she was young, was in Split from M. Night
Oh yeah,
Shyamalan.
that's right. She was in that, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but even from like everything that she does is great. So there, that part's great, but the whole story thing, I don't care what she ate for breakfast 5 days before or a year before. I don't know. Like I want to see what
Yeah.
happens going forward. That's whole thing. I don't.
Yeah. I don't know either, but oh well, we're gonna find out. I mean, George Miller can, he can. He's a phenomenal writer and director when
Yeah,
he is interested in the material, right? So, I mean, this has all the potential of being really, really good.
yeah.
We'll just have to wait
I'll
and
see it
see.
definitely. I'll go see it. I'll support it in the theater with my dollars for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I loved I loved the Fury Road. I thought it was so good.
Oh, I know. Fury Road is my I'm feeling down, I want to feel better movie. Like
Yeah,
I have seen that movie so many times. I really love Fury Road.
yeah. I think I saw it in the theater at least two or it felt like two or three times. I just couldn't get over how
Yeah.
good a beautiful movie it was.
Yeah, I think I saw it in theaters twice. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and the thing that like I don't know and this is getting back on Spider-Man.
Hmm.
I didn't understand what Peter thought he was accomplishing. Like they weren't even consistent. So all of the villains that came
Yeah.
back the moment that they died. I mean, the moment before they died.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this was a plot point. They spent a minute or more coming to this realization. That's why Peter decides to cure them.
Okay.
But to what end? When they go back to their dimension, there's still going to be
Yeah.
moments from dying, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, so now you've cured them. They're no longer villains, but they're going to die anyway.
Yeah. Because they're right in that moment of a death's throw kind of a thing, and yeah.
Mhm. And then if that's the case, was Andrew Garfield Peter Parker and Tobey Maguire Peter Parker, were they moments from dying? right?
Yeah, because of that. Yeah, I mean that was a very like, for example, Doc Ock's thing was something about the power of the sun in my hands. He keeps saying that line over and over again.
Yeah.
I think it's towards the end of the movie where he has Peter by the throat or something. I can't remember for sure. Um, but yeah, that's yeah. There wasn't much. The way they went about it, there's too many. There's too many inconsistent. There's too much potential for inconsistency. Um,
I mean, it wasn't. Yeah,
yeah.
for me, it wasn't inconsistency. It just didn't make any sense. Like it wasn't thought through, and
Mhm.
I think my fear is that like hardcore Marvel fans like they'll fall back on, oh yeah, well Peter Parker is a teenager and he's impulsive and so that justifies it. I'm like, no, it you can't mask, you know, impulsive. You can't mask bad writing with impulsive teenagers. Like it's not that's not it doesn't work that way. Bad
Yeah.
writing is bad writing.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and yeah, and then Doctor Strange just shows up out of nowhere at the end
Mhm.
of the movie to save the day because ultimately he's the one who saves the day by
Yes.
casting the spell that makes everybody forget about Peter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and like, and also like, I Peter is not a sympathetic character in this movie. Like,
No.
he's not a good guy. I mean, he
Yeah.
got his aunt, his mother figure, killed
Yeah.
because of his irrational behavior, right? And the fact that like Doctor Strange was so willing to cast a spell without even doing the most basic follow up until after he'd already cast the spell was just like, who are you? You are a neurosurgeon? You're really dumb for a neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is, you know, it is basically exactly what I thought it was going to be, at least to
Uh-huh.
my taste. But you are right. It's a very good point. Um, if the story had made more sense, I would be less bothered by all of the nostalgia baiting. Right? I think it's because the story made so little sense.
When
Um,
they rely on nostalgia to kind of carry it through.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so I think that that's what really bothered me about it.
Yeah. What did you think about? So for me, again, like the biggest thing I was raving about a couple weeks ago was the performances of Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina. I mean, what did you think about seeing them, or were you trying to put on your filter of I don't want to be emotionally moved by these characters because I know that I'm being emotionally manipulated because of nostalgia. Like what were you thinking during
Well,
those times?
so full disclosure, I didn't like the only Spider-Man movie I've ever liked
Mm-hmm.
was Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
I didn't like the first
oh,
5 movies. I didn't like. I never even went to go see Far From Home, so I haven't seen that one. So maybe my opinion would be completely different, but I doubt it.
okay.
I didn't like Homecoming. I didn't like Amazing Spider-Man 1 or 2. I didn't like Spider-Man 1 through 3. I didn't like any of those movies. So I actually wasn't coming in. I mean, I had the knowledge of these people, of these characters,
Uh-huh.
because you know, I'd seen the movies, but there was no nostalgia for me because I didn't like any of those movies.
Okay.
And
All right.
so I didn't have to like, there was no filter, right? It's just like,
Uh-huh.
okay, well, you know, these are good actors playing characters, so that's fine.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, I I thought Alfred Molina was sorely underused, um, you know, and I thought Willem Dafoe was great because I think Willem Dafoe is a phenomenal actor.
Mhm.
Um, but again, like you had well, Lizard, Sandman, Electro, Doc Ock, Green Goblin. Were there any other villains? I don't remember. I think
Let's
those
see.
are
It
all of
was
them.
five. It was Electro, Sandman, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, um, and Lizard. Just five, which
Yeah,
is kind of funny because again, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you're expecting to have a
the
Sinister
sixth
Six.
one, right? Because you're yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why they decided. Okay, well, because again, the writing wasn't that great anyway. So why not? I mean, if you're gonna just kind of half-ass it a little bit, just throw in the six and just say Sinister Six.
Well, and like,
But
could they? What was Michael Keaton too busy to come back and do a small bit as Vulture? Right? Like,
yeah, I don't know. No, because I don't know if you happen to see the trailers before because there was a trailer for Mobius, which is another
yeah,
yeah, and Vulture's in that. Like
right.
Michael Keaton has a role in that. So that I don't think that was the case. I just think they just didn't think it through very much because there's really to me again the villains that really were the star of the show were Doc Ock and Green Goblin. So you could have put a sixth one in there and it wouldn't have mattered. Like Lizard, what did he really
Yeah.
do?
No, Lizard was just
Yeah.
He
So
had these bizarre non sequitur lines that didn't mean anything. Like
yeah.
they rent a U-Haul, drive back to Happy's apartment, and he just lets these obviously evil people just walk around freely, right? Um,
Yeah.
it didn't make any sense. And it's like, where's Lizard? Oh, he decided to stay in the van. Really? You're just gonna let him stay in this monstrous being that Doctor Strange almost died capturing? He's just gonna hang out in the van. And then when J. Jonah Jameson shows up, and I did like the sort of turn, the Alex Jones turn of that character, but
That's funny.
I didn't understand the line when Lizard says, "And so it begins." Like I didn't understand that. What did that mean?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean it's people like the movie and that's great, awesome. I'm not telling people to not like the movie. It just didn't. The story made literally no sense to me. It was impossible to follow because I didn't understand why I was watching any of it. And because there were 5 antagonists and 3 protagonists and Doctor Strange and MJ and Nate, I mean, you had like over 10 characters that all needed screen time, but you didn't have the luxury of making a 3-hour-long movie like the Russos did for Infinity War and Endgame, right? And so they were trying to cram all of this stuff into the 2-hour runtime. And I would have loved to see more Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina. I got to be honest. I'm Thomas Hayden Church. That's the guy who plays Sandman.
Yeah.
Thomas Hayden Church, I can take or leave. Jamie Foxx, I can take or leave. I don't even know the guy who played Lizard. I don't remember what his name is.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I mean, obviously Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe are phenomenally gifted actors, and it's just like, why didn't you just do them? Just grab those two, right?
Yeah, and then you could have been. Yeah, it probably would have been a more quality, a better written story. The writers would have had to just worry about, didn't have to have the responsibility of getting weird lines to characters.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure they felt obligated to bring in antagonists from the Amazing Spider-Man because they got Andrew Garfield, yada yada yada. But like, why did you need Thomas Hayden Church? Like, why did you need Lizard? Right? I mean, Electro is obviously the most compelling villain of those 2 movies. So just bring Jamie Foxx in, drop the other 2, and then you have 3 antagonists and 3 protagonists, and you move on with your life. But in any case, and we talked about this too. Still not a Zendaya booster. I just don't get why people like her. I mean, I've at this point I've seen her in the first Spider-Man movie and the third one in Dune, right? So I haven't seen that HBO show that she does. So maybe if I saw that, my opinion would change. But at least in those 3 movies, she has no screen presence. She is just like, she sleepwalks her way through all of these roles. At least from my observation, right? Like, I just don't get it. I do not get Zendaya at all.
You don't get the fascination with Zendaya.
Nope, I don't get it.
So. I'm too out of the loop with Zendaya to have an opinion either way. I think to me, the problem is Mary Jane's never been interesting anyway.
That's true.
I think her take, I mean, well, not her take, but the writer's take on Mary Jane in the Holland versions of Spider-Man are the best because, again, there's not much there for Mary Jane to work with. So I don't know whether Zendaya was lucky because she gets at least something, because I think I'm assuming that the Mary Jane in the Holland versions has the most lines for a Mary Jane character.
Yeah.
So I think that makes her more likable by default. But yeah, she was a one note in the Tobey Maguire ones, and then Emma Stone played with Gwen in the middle ones, the Amazing Spider-Man. So
yeah. MJ wasn't in the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. And I couldn't watch the Amazing Spider-Mans without cringing too much. So if Emma Stone did a great job, I didn't notice because couldn't get into them at all.
I mean, the one thing I will say about this movie is it actually made Andrew Garfield a compelling Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
He was
Yeah.
actually interesting. He was actually funny.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh, okay, I can see why you got this part, and it's pretty clear that the scripts in those movies were just not good, and you just really didn't have anything to work with. Because,
Mhm.
like, for all of my complaints, honestly, these new Spider-Man movies are they have the Marvel money behind them, so there is a quality level, a baseline that they always hit, just because Marvel throws its money behind it, and their quality control people will hold them to that at least bar, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
In my opinion, that bar has gotten lower and lower over the years, but at the very least, there is a certain level of quality that you kind of can assume from Marvel superhero movies. Now, they've had missteps recently, like the Eternals apparently was just abysmally bad. I never saw it. So,
I
I don't
just
know.
I just watched Eternals last night, but again, I don't have any. I simply watched them now. I thought it was just a middle of the road, another Marvel movie. Um, Nothing really too special about it. I mean, I enjoyed um, the Spider-Man installment much more than I did Eternals, but I thought Eternals was fine. I mean, it's just another. I mean, I'm just watching it to eat some popcorn or to eat a slice of pizza and just stare at the screen. That's all I'm
Mm.
doing, watching some laser blasts and stuff. So I just don't go in with too much expectation anymore for a Marvel movie these days. But um,
Well,
yeah,
we've been going for a little bit here, so I think it's probably time to wrap it up. But um, a
yeah.
closing thought, I saw this on the internet, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good point. Because of Spider-Man: No Way Home, the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is now 2001's Spider-Man.
Oh, really? Oh, that's true because by default, right? I mean,
Yep,
yeah,
they're part of the continuity now.
yeah.
Therefore,
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
yeah,
That's interesting.
so they've retconned the Marvel Cinematic Universe to actually start in 2001.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Well, I mean, as you wrap up here, just to loop back to Calamity Jane stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
we have a 3/4 pose for Sally now, so I can use that in the shot here, and I will eventually get to that
Mm-hmm.
point in the scene. But yeah, so productive productive evening. I'll change the pose a little bit. It's a little bit kind of I'm not completely happy with it, but we do have the 3/4 head, which is what I was really going for.
Great.
So
Well, then we've accomplished two things tonight. We've thoroughly dissected the new Spider-Man movie, and we have a three-quarters perspective for Sally O'Flanagan. So that's perfect.
it's all coming up Calamity Jane's tonight.
That's
So
right. The multiverse of Calamity Jane. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully, you liked our geek rant. We'll be back at the same time next week. You can find us on all the things YouTube, which is where you're presumably watching this right now, Facebook. If you head to calamityjane.rocks, it'll take you right to our Patreon site. Please consider supporting us and becoming a subscription member and helping us complete this crazy cartoon. See you next week, everybody. Stay safe out there.
good night, everybody.
Good night. All right, and we're